What's poppin', people? It's Banana Bread Man back at it again. You might have remembered a couple months ago when I asked y'all who is and isn't an antagonist in Total Drama. So I put that data to use and decided to rank every single Total Drama antagonist from the peak of the top to the shit of the slop and everything in between. So stick around and join me as I rank every Total Drama antagonist. Hey, I also want to use this time in the beginning to thank everyone that checked out the Deltarune video. It's really scary going outside of your niche, so everyone that checked it out, thank you so much. To all the Deltarune fans, I will definitely return for Chapter 5, and probably stuff in between then. With that said, let me take you back to your regularly scheduled programming.
Disappointment in the game of life.
And in last place, the single worst Total Drama antagonist is, drumroll please, Owen. Probably didn't expect to see him here. Does anyone remember Owen's mole arc in action? And other people who do, does anyone care? Like, this adds nothing to the season. If anything, the season is worse because of it. It ruins the Duncan Harold friendship, which could have had them falling out and then reconciling in a theoretical top 3 finale. Like, there is so much more you could have done. What if you expanded the Jeff Captain Hollywood arc? Make him work under Chris to stir up the drama like in the Aftermath. Anyways, back to Owen. If this was a character ranking, which I've made like 80 of, he'd be an S tier. But for villains, he is the worst one so far. I genuinely believe that there is no way to fix Owen's mole arc. It should have just been scrapped. The only thing I'll give it is that it only lasted 4 episodes. Our second to last place and last character in F tier is Mal. Look, Mike as a whole did not age well, but Mal especially is the reason I think we'll never see him or his alters again. I'll give Mal a little bit of credit. He is not bad in theory. There is a way to have this idea work, and there have been plenty of rewrites where he's a pretty solid villain. He's also kind of funny, ironically, a little. But he has no presence as a villain. They try to make him seem threatening, but they just make everyone else incompetent. His plans are stupid, he's super strong, but awful in challenges, and all of that would be fine if they didn't treat him like he was the greatest villain the show has ever seen. Make him an incompetent secondary villain. Maybe make him less strong but more conniving. Make him a challenge beast, but he's awful at convincing others that he's Mike. Just give him a flaw. God damn, man. And don't get me started on the button. Mal is abysmal dog shit, and the only reason he's higher than Owen is because I find it really funny that he's just canonically dead.
This sucks.
When it comes to D tier, I feel like these characters aren't just mediocre, but there are also so much wasted potential. And I would argue that wasted potential is worse than just a mid-villain. The epitome of this is Amy. The twins as a whole are very underutilized. The season starts with them as the main focal point, but after Amy's eliminated, Sammy just kind of becomes a background character. Of all the characters on this list, Amy would benefit the most from having a second season, besides maybe Scarlet. Having a return with Sammy, learning that despite everything that happened on Pahkitew, nothing has changed at home, and now this season is focused on Sammy trying to get back at her for everything. The idea is not all there to me, but anyways, Amy is a massive waste of potential. Next up is Jeff. As I hinted to before, I believe that Jeff's Captain Hollywood arc could have been expanded on a lot more in action. It's not the worst thing ever, but it's really nothing. Sure, the episodes are probably the 2 most fun aftermaths, but it could have been given a lot more. What if Jeff didn't learn his lesson in the 3rd aftermath, and instead Chris calls Jeff up and offers him a gig to stir up drama in the competition, kind of paralleling the DJ Chef alliance. Then Jeff acts as Chris's man on the inside. He tries to eliminate Justin because he wants to be the hot one on the island. Then Lindsay accidentally votes off Beth instead of herself, and now the dynamics are totally shifted. Duncan and Courtney are still at each other's throats. Jeff is trying to rekindle the hatred between Courtney and Harold. Lindsay hates herself and Courtney, and Jeff is trying to get Duncan back to pranking Harold because Chris and the audience love it. As it stands in the show, it's fine, but thinking about what could have been makes it all feel a little disappointing. Next up,
It's
Blanley is so close to being a good villain. She just needed 2 more in-competition episodes. Have her survive Chinese fake out and have Duncan be the double elimination with Courtney. Then in Lion Safari, have her blackmail Alejandro, forcing him to be a little bit more quick on his feet, make it a non-elimination episode, and then finally have him take her out in Rapafui. Character-wise, she is perfectly adequate, but she does nothing in the game. Just give her a little bit more, and she could be B tier. Now we got Scarlet, and Scarlet is the biggest case of missing potential in this this entire franchise. Sure, she's fine as a straight man to Max, and her time in Scarlet Fever is a little cringe, but man, it could have been so much more. The idea of a villain that not only the contestants don't realize is evil, but the audience too, it's so peak, and it could have made the rewatch potential of the season incredible. In the season itself, Scarlet's fine, but she could have been one of the greats. The penultimate D tier character is my first real controversial take. MK is not it. In season 1, she's a really strong pre-merge antagonist. The spying gimmick is something we've only seen in small segments, and it's usually nothing important, so this was massive. But then season 2 rolls around and she's just Julia's lapdog. Come on girl, lock in and be your own character. They just instantly become best friends at the start of the season. At least make it so they start with an uneasy alliance where they'd both betray each other the first chance they get, then have them start to get along, become each other's first real friend, and then they become the best lesbian couple in any total drama related media. As of now, she's just Julia's lackey. And while their dynamic is fun, she is never the instigator. She pretty much always follows Julia's lead, at least after the fake intern thing. MK is okay, but she could have been so much more. And the cream of the crop of the D tier is Eva. Eva is a weird case. As a villain, works fine in Island. She's forgettable in the pre-merge, but she does help establish that it doesn't matter if you're good at challenges if no one likes you. Her time in the merge is also really good. She's funny, though a bit dumber than before, and she establishes that being too much of a threat is also dangerous for you in the merge. There are just a couple things holding her back. She never returns. She doesn't even really act as an antagonist after Island. She's a lot chiller in the finale and the special, and her reappearances in the aftermath are very sparse. I feel like if she was brought back in World Tour, not even as an antagonist, but just someone who occasionally crashes out, I'd be a lot more forgiving to her. She could have been a high C tier or low B tier. Speaking of C tier,
whatever, I'm out of here.
The C tier antagonists just kinda don't work for me, but I can see why they'd be liked. The first characters in this tier show it off very well, with those being Mike's alters. Including them in the first place was a little controversial, but I felt like they had to be included if I was going to include someone like Zeke and Izzy. Anyways, Yap session aside, Mike's alters. They work fine for Mike's story. They are perfectly adequate sympathetic antagonists turned supporting characters. I just don't like Mike, and that kind of drags his whole plot down and all these characters with it. Next up is Stephanie. For this video, I rewatched the Redonkulous Race and came to the conclusion that I may have overhyped Stephanie a little. She's not an atrocious villain, she works fine. You root against her when you're supposed to, you root for her when you're supposed to, but she is just overshadowed by the main villains, and I'll get to them later, but they really hold the spotlight when it comes to villainy. Stephanie's fine, I'll hold nothing against her, but in terms of villains, she's just really mid. Coming back to obstacle characters, Izzy. The only moments that I can truly call Izzy an antagonist is when she helps Heather eliminate Trent, and her time in the spider outfit. As an obstacle, she's really good. She's a tangible threat, and the reveal that she's in the costume works and makes the episode better on rewatch. Then she shows up in All-Stars and it's like, really? Mal's beating her? Oh, we did ass. She also works well as one of Heather's allies in season 1, but her joining them and then leaving is never really shown on screen. It's just kind of implied, which it's fine not to spell everything out, but like, you could have just had like one scene where Heather's like, welcome back, Izzy, we really missed you. You know, something. You may be wondering why she's this low if I have so many positive things to say about her, and it's supposed to be because I don't think of her as an antagonist. Like, sure, she does bad things, but she's Izzy. She's crazy. Whenever she does anything bad, it feels like cartoon antics, and while that makes her more fun as a character, it hinders her enough as an antagonist not to put her any higher. Speaking of characters I don't really view as antagonists, Duncan. I know this will probably shock a lot of my longtime viewers since I'm a massive Duncan fan. He is my all-time favorite character, and only 3 characters can even come close, which I'll talk about them later. But I don't really view him as a villain. He's more of a morally gray secondary protagonist. Don't get me wrong, he's a bad person. He does bad things. A lot of bad things. It's like he's some kind of does bad things guy. But he also does a lot of good too. Not enough to make him a good person, but enough where he's not totally evil. Well, you're not a good man, Duncan, but you're not all bad. I won't just bring up the cookie cutter good things like Bunny, taking care of the guys, or anything from All Stars, but like, in action, despite their past, Duncan and Harold become good friends before Owen breaks them up. Or in World Tour, when he cheats on Courtney, he's the one that wants to come clean an episode later. He just doesn't get the chance because of the boar bear, but the intention's still there. Does it excuse his actions? No. But I think people look at total drama in a binary good-evil sense, but I think we as the community should try to keep things a little bit more gray. As such, I can't can't warrant putting him any higher than this, because I just don't think he qualifies for this ranking. And sure, there are a lot of other characters here that you can make that same argument with, but with Duncan, the bad stuff he does is less antagonistic and more just being a dick. Like, yeah, you'll work with Heather and Courtney and Alejandro, but y'all said that helping an antagonist doesn't qualify as being an antagonist. If we were looking solely at Season 1 Duncan, I think he'd be a lot higher, but with that said, let's move up a tier.
I mean, it's alright, like...
It's sugar time, and damn does this character get a lot of undeserved hate. And I think I partially understand why. I think a lot of people view her as the main antagonist of Pacquiao, when she works way better as a secondary antagonist. I personally believe that Pacquiao has no main antagonist. Rather, it's just a bunch of mini antagonists and morally dubious characters. If you see Sugar in this view, she becomes a whole lot more fun. Seriously, if you haven't watched Pacquiao in a while and hate the season, watch it with that mindset, and I promise you, you'll enjoy the season a hell of a lot more. I will never understand the people who think that this is the worst season when All-Stars, and to a far lesser extent, Reboot Season 2 exists. Anyways, back to Sugar. She's fun. Not every villain needs to be smart and start all the drama. There is plenty of that without her. Sometimes you just need a character that does bad things and is a bit funny. I get it if you don't like the gross out humor, but personally, never bothered me. She works fine for Pacquiao, she's perfectly adequate, and will land in a solid B tier. I know that this will shock a lot of my longtime viewers, but I think Dave is a fine villain. I have previously said that Dave is my least favorite total drama character, and that is true. I fucking hate this guy. I find him whiny, annoying, and while the incel thing is supposed to be a critique, it doesn't make me like him anymore. But that's the thing, you're not supposed to like him. You're supposed to hate his guts, and damn do I despise him. I love to hate Dave. I love to hate him so much that I dedicated an entire April Fool's video to pretending that I liked him. Is he a bad person? Yes. Is he annoying? Definitely. Do I hate him? Absolutely. Does that make him a bad antagonist? Hell no. Next up is Ripper. Ripper's kinda like Duncan. He does bad things, he's a bad person, but he doesn't do anything antagonistic to progress his game. You may wonder why that doesn't put him in the same spot as Duncan, and that's because you're meant to see him in a much more antagonistic light. He directly does bad things to the main protagonist of the season, where Duncan really only does it with the side characters. Where Duncan was a worse person, Ripper is put in a worse perspective. If we were looking at Season 1 Duncan, he'd probably be right here. Maybe 3 to 5 places higher because I'm biased as hell, but definitely in the same tier. I think Ripper's fun. Like Sugar, he doesn't have to be a schemer. We already got 3 of those. He's just a fun dick. And while he's not the funniest dick, he's still perfect for this cast. You know, I'm starting to notice a pattern in this tier. I'm pretty much just throwing all the bad people that don't really do anything bad for the game. And now we have the most bad person that doesn't do anything bad for the game, Max. I think Max is really funny, but he's also the closest thing to a main antagonist for Pacquiao, at least until Scarlet Fever. So that kinda holds him back, since despite doing most of the evil, he's not really a serious threat. I think that's what holds a lot of these characters back from A tier. I really think that of the characters in this tier, only like 4 of them could ever be made threatening enough in a rewrite for them to be boosted up a tier. The rest of them are just kind of fun mini villains, and there's nothing wrong with that, but if you try to have me take them seriously, they'd fall flatter than Mal. Anyways, back to Max. There's not a lot to say. He's fun, he works well, he's not threatening, but he doesn't need to be. There is enough drama without him instigating it. Next up is Scary Girl, and she might even be more of a bad person who doesn't make any game moves. Scary Girl is really fun, one of the most fun characters of this generation. She's got great dynamics with the cast despite being such an early boot. She's fun, she's crazy, and she works well as a minor antagonist for the pre-merge. I have no notes. However, with this low potential floor, the ceiling ain't too high. I could see her making it to the merge, and I could see her influencing another competitor to be more evil, but I don't think she could ever be the main antagonist herself. And that's fine, but it ain't gonna get her any higher. We've done it. We've reached the final obstacle character. And with it, the best obstacle character in the franchise, Ezekiel. A small part of me is sad that this is the fate Zeke received as a character. He's a naive country boy that ended up becoming a feral monster thanks to greed and desperation. On the other hand, he wasn't that interesting before. And that's not to say that feral Zeke is a super deep character, but it shows that Zeke was once a really determined character. Probably the most determined character besides maybe Courtney or Priya, and there's a strong argument that they're not even close. Zeke works perfectly as a main antagonist for 1 episode. His feral strength makes him a major threat. He's crazy enough where it seems like he can't be reasoned with, but characters that are smart or pretty enough could make a deal. But if you tried to unferal him, I don't think he'd qualify. Still, Ezekiel works just peachy. Next up, we got Julia. Julia's not here because she's not threatening. She's fine in that regard. Solid challenge performance, somehow a good social game, and she can always weasel her way out of an elimination elimination. There's just a couple problems. One, off-screen bullshit. And sure, if this was season 1, I'd cut it a little slack. But this is season 7, 8 if you count the redonkulous race. We should not have the main villain pull something insane without them at least showing us. And when she does do something on screen, it's pretty good. But it still sometimes feels forced. Like the MK elimination in season 1. She literally does the Dokes thing. Look, not everything needs to be shown on screen. Like MK Season 2 elimination, perfect. And the reveal once MK is eliminated, beautiful. But it feels like she could get away with anything. And while strong villains can be fun, overpowered villains are not. The main reason she fails is because she has zero faults or weaknesses. She strolls in, insults everyone, wins a challenge, rinse, repeat. It's lame. Give the villainy to someone like MK, Nichelle, and to a lesser extent Chase. I don't know how much better they could make her, but I'm gonna be optimistic. And here we are, the last of the characters I'd call bad people who don't make any game moves. Chase. Chase is the best version of these types of characters. I know I called Max the most bad person who doesn't do anything in the game, but Chase hasn't beaten the category most important for these types of characters. He is really damn funny. Like, Chase is the funniest part of the reboot. He's a terrible person and boyfriend, but whenever he's on screen, he's got me cackling. He also manages to cause drama without it feeling out of place. Like, if Max or Scary Girl tried to stir anything up, I'd go like, really? Because they're not that kind of character. But Chase and Emma were designed for this. They were molded for this task. I could also see him as a more serious threat without him being the main antagonist. Assuming there is a season 3 with the reboot cast, a story centered around Emma with MK as the main antagonist using Chase as a challenge mule would be perfect. And it would knock both of them up to A tier. He still wouldn't be a super serious character. He's Chase, but he's not a threat because of his plays. He's a threat because he can't stop winning. Anyways, my pick for the 10th best antagonist in total drama is Justin. Yes, I know there are 9 spots left, but one of them has a duo. Justin is like if Chase made some moves in the game. And sure, he basically only made 2 moves, but he carried the villain role in action until Courtney showed up. He's at his best early in the season when everyone likes him, and he takes out Trent to become the leader of his team. But then he doesn't take control, and that's where he kinda loses me. It could have been really interesting to see him and Lindsay fight for control of the grips until Courtney shows up and takes it forcefully from both, making them have to work together to try to take her down. I kinda do something like this in my What If World Tour had his promo cast. I love shameless plugging. I think he's pretty threatening in the Island special, and I really like the Noah rivalry they set up, even if it goes nowhere. If I had a nickel for every rivalry Noah had with a pretty boy that went nowhere, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right? Justin may be a little underbaked, but he's funny, and he works early on. This last spot hurts. I want to give him S tier, but I just can't justify it. It's Lightning. Lightning as a villain is held back by one simple fact. He is not a villain till the last 3 episodes. Is he arrogant? Yes. Is he a jerk? Pretty much. Is he a villain? Hell no. He's a comic relief. It's like if you eliminated Scarlet in the final 6 and then made Max a competent villain for the rest of the season. He's just Tyler, but mean up to the final 5. Then he becomes a supporting character for Cameron, and then he turns heel after Cameron steals his win. I think it could have been a lot more interesting if he went full villain earlier into the merge. Mike and Zoe are eliminated 6th and 5th, and we watch as Cameron have to fight it out by himself for the rest of the season. Scott taken out 4th, and then in the final 3, Joe or Lightning eliminate the other. Personally, I'm leaning towards Lightning versus Cameron. Call it bias, but I think an All-Stars finale of Joe versus Courtney would be awesome. You may be wondering why Lightning is so high if I don't think he's an antagonist till those last 3 episodes. And that's because he genuinely works so well in those last 3 episodes. He is so imposing as an antagonist. Like, the Zoe elimination is one of the best in the entire franchise, and it's not because of who goes, it's why she goes. If you let him be villainous a little longer, he could easily be A tier. Speaking of A tier,
That was awesome!
the first of A tier is Scott, and I have recently come around to Scott as a villain. I used to think his strategy is dumb, and while I think there are for sure some stupid parts, I think I get it. He says he wants to get the maggots a false sense of security before he picks them off, and if you only look at it like that, in the most one-dimensional way possible, then he's a damn moron. But then you realize he's trying to make himself look physically weaker to get rid of people that could show off his true nature and keep the physically strongest but dumbest member of his team as a scapegoat, and then it works a hell of a lot better. Sure, he throws all of this away when he eliminates Mike, and just becomes another cookie-cutter evil narcissist, but if you had him hide his intentions a little longer, and maybe have Zoe figure him out instead of just revealing it for no reason in Mike's elimination, I could easily put him in the S tier. Next up is Courtney. I know a lot of the fandom skips over her as a main antagonist, which kind of stings because I think Action is her 2nd best season. She brought so much tension and drama to Action during its driest point, and managed to be a really solid antagonist by borrowing the strongest parts from previous antagonists, and using everything at her disposal to make it just a tad farther. Is she as threatening as Heather? No, but she works fine for the slower, more casual season of action. And she has great dynamics with the entire cast. Her versus Harold or Lindsay are the second and third best possible finales for action. The only real reason she's not in S tier is because she doesn't have an intimidating presence. It feels like every episode she is being one-upped or made a joke, which works fine for characters like Lightning or Justin, but for a main villain it doesn't really click with me. Like sure, Heather is put in her place a lot, but it's usually after she does something massive, or she tends to eventually get them back. So it doesn't feel like the villain is a pushover, it feels like our hero is taking a stand. You could say it fits with Courtney being a more bratty villain, but if I rewrote action, I'd try to make her either more Weasley and socially a threat, or stronger and a more intimidating presence, who is only occasionally brought down to the other campers' level and hates it. The last camper in A tier is Jo. I fucking love Jo. She's the perfect antagonist for the Maggots team. Her dynamics with Brick are some of the most entertaining in the series, and she plays off of Cameron so well, I cannot blame anyone who thinks she should have been in the finale over Lightning. Jo just has one problem. She doesn't get enough focus. Her time as a major villain is sidelined for Scott, and while there's nothing wrong with that, she's again sidelined in All-Stars. I'll maintain that she should have been in the final 3 instead of Zoe, but I think she would have made the perfect main antagonist for All-Stars. Having her butt heads with Heather early on, making alliances with Duncan and Lightning to take out bigger threats before backstabbing them and merge. Hell, if you wanted to keep Mal as a secondary antagonist, have her figure him out and work with someone like Alejandro to take him down. She was so close to S tier. If she was the main antagonist, I 100% believe she would have been up there with characters like Heather and Alejandro. But when it comes to the cream of the crop, I just don't think that she manages to reach that peak. Anyways, it is time for the best of the best. The greatest total drama villains to ever do it. The S tier.
It was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
Now we got our final reboot contestant. Bowie. Bowie is another side of the same coin that Duncan is on, where Duncan is a morally gray protagonist who is a bad person that does no real harm to progress his game. Bowie is a morally gray antagonist who is a good person but does bad things to progress in the game. Bowie's got a lot of layers, and I feel that makes him a really interesting character. He starts out the season by eliminating Caleb, setting himself up as the main antagonist. Then he allies with Emma and you think, alright, they're gonna do the Heather Lindsay thing again, but then they actually become genuine friends and you start to think there's more than him. Then he kisses Raj and Julia becomes the main antagonist, and he's her main opposition, and you think, oh crap, he's gonna be the unexpected anti-hero. But then you get to the end of the season, and he rips apart Priya and Millie's friendship, and you remember that while he may be a good person, he is absolutely willing to get his hands dirty. I think that all these shifting pieces really help to make him the best reboot antagonist. Season 2 has him take the backseat a bit, but his conflict about lying to Raj is pretty interesting. He's only got one fault. We don't see how he reacts to winning. And this isn't just me complaining about the reboot not having alternate ending, but I genuinely would love to see his reaction after winning season 1. Would he maintain the arrogant, it's just a game and I made you all better players? Would he console Priya after she realizes that all of her training was for nothing and help her find her own identity outside of total drama? Or would he do something wholly unexpected? Thankfully, it's not that big of an issue to keep him out of the best of the best. Ironically, in third place are the Ice Dancers. The Ice Dancers are super underrated. Redonkulous Race as a whole is. If they were put in a season of total drama, I don't think they would work that well, but they're not. They are really benefited by Redonkulous Race not having any voting. They don't have to manipulate their competitors or be liked socially, they just gotta be faster than someone else. And this doesn't mean that they're meatheads that can't think for themselves. They're great at sabotage. They're basically if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, we're people. Jacques and Jose bounce off each other really well, and they have great dynamics with the rest of the cast. But specifically, the cadets and Dawn are great. I love how you can tell that Dawn is fed up with them halfway through the season, and MacArthur versus Jose is a top 5 rivalry in the franchise. They managed to perfectly balance being really funny with really threatening, and I could not think of a single genuine fault with these guys. They are just all that and more. If there was a second season of the Redonkulous Race, well, I'd prefer someone like the Geniuses or Fashion Bloggers taking up a more antagonistic role. I would not be mad with the Ice Dancers running it back. In terms of performance, they are an easy top 3 greatest of all time. You could argue top 2 or 1, and I would not hold it against you in the slightest. The only thing holding them back from silver and gold is the fact that the 2 in front of them are insane. This is like comparing Shaq to LeBron or Jordan. To keep the basketball metaphor alive, Heather is Jordan. Played great for her time and is glazed heavily by old heads, even if it's deserved. She plays off every major character in Island. Her rivalries with Lashana and Gwen are incredible. Her and Duncan have a great back and forth throughout the season. Seeing Owen snap at someone was really fun, and her and Lindsay are one of the best duos in any season. Her time in action is really fun, even if it's short, and her and Lashana finally becoming friends is great. World Tour doesn't count because she's the protagonist, but it's easily her best season. Her cameo in Revenge is fun, but it does feel like she's regressed a bit. And she's one of the better characters in All-Stars. She had a fun rivalry with Joe, and her dynamic with Alejandro is great, even if she got shafted early on. While criticisms about her plot armor and Island are definitely fair, I'll give it a pass. After all, it's their first season. She only has a handful of moments where her surviving an elimination feels really unfair, but man, she feels like a threat. There is a reason that Heather is copied in literally every Total Drama-esque show, including Total Drama. She is iconic. She is unforgettable. She is the Total Drama antagonist. And yet, there is one competitor remaining. After Courtney and Justin's solid but tad underwhelming run in action, nobody thought Heather could be topped as a competitor. It would take a nearly perfect camper, designed to play the game at the highest level with ultra-elite manipulation ability, unmatched social game, and a career that spans across seasons. They would have to stay on top of their game and avoid the early elimination in their second season that every villain inevitably faces. It couldn't possibly happen. In theory, Heather could be usurped, but in reality, this camper just didn't exist. And then Alejandro Muerto showed up and changed all of that. Alejandro is the perfect foil to Heather. He has all of her worst traits turned up to 11. Heather can pretend to be nice for a couple episodes. He can do it all season. Heather uses her looks to make a couple plays. That's Alejandro's bread and butter. Heather drops an ally when she has to. Alejandro does it immediately after getting everything he needs off them. You may be asking, wait, if he just retreads on a previous antagonist, isn't that just boring? And while that can be true, Alejandro works because he never lays his cards on the table. Alejandro doesn't let anyone on his plans unless they have to know something. And that something is usually a lie. Where in most shows it would feel unsatisfying because we can't hear their thoughts, we typically learn about Al at just the right time. Like at the start of the season, we know nothing about this guy. We don't even know if he's a bad guy until the end of episode 2. Unless you watch the action special. But there are enough subtle hits where you should be able to figure it out around the same time as Heather. And he's not perfect. A couple of campers can see right through him. Heather, Duncan, and Noah. Not to mention his greatest fault, pride. His pride is set up all season, where, despite seeming like a golden boy, he freaks out whenever he's called Al. Or that time he tries to flex on Heather in Greece, only to lose. And the way it all comes back to bite him in the end of the season is amazing. Him falling for Heather here doesn't feel like him losing his brain at the last minute. It feels like Heather playing on her knowledge of his ego and crush on her that she learned about across the whole season. His manipulation feels believable for pretty much every competitor besides maybe Lashana. World Tour has a lot of faults as a season. There is no denying that. But Alejandro is not one of them. Alejandro is Total Drama's greatest villain, and I don't think anyone is topping him anytime soon. Also, he's pretty okay in All-Stars, I guess. And that's the video. I hope y'all enjoyed. Do you think I missed a character? Do you think I included a character that I shouldn't have? Or do you have your own idea for a video? Let me know below. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and hype the video for me. Not really sure what it does, but it looks cool. FYI, I'm hosting a stream November 22nd at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time to celebrate the 3-year anniversary of me doing long-form content. More info will be posted later. And remember to stay golden. Later.